the most iconic dance in cinema, the most electrifying smile of the king. But for Elvis, this movie wasn't rock and roll. It was a ghost, a nightmare he tried to avoid his whole life. What made the man who conquered the world run away from his own masterpiece? The tragedy wasn't on the screen, but in real life. A tragedy that claimed the light of his co-star, Judy Tyler, our eternal Peggy Van Alden, just 3 weeks after filming. Fate took her, and the pain broke the king's heart. This is the story of the tragedy Hollywood tried to hide and the trauma that haunted Elvis. You, a true fan of the King of Rock, know that Jailhouse Rock is not just a movie, it's pure history. It's the energy of our Vince Everett at his peak, the first music video in history. But behind that electrifying dance, that slight corner-of-the-mouth smile of the man, hides one of the darkest tragedies of his entire career. Prepare to dive into the shocking fate of Judy Tyler, our eternal Peggy Van Alden, the co-star who, days after saying "I love you" to Elvis on screen, was gone forever. Stay here, because this story will show you the most human and devastated side of our king. The year was 1957. Elvis Presley, the Memphis Hurricane, was at the height of his rock and pop culture revolution and was preparing to film what would become one of his most important cinematic works, Jailhouse Rock. The production team and Colonel Tom Parker knew this was not just another movie. It required an equally talented cast, and for the role of the heroine, Peggy Van Alden, it was crucial to find an actress with charisma and strength to act opposite the King of Rock. That's where Judy Tyler comes in. She wasn't a novice in Hollywood, but her fame came from an unexpected place: Broadway and children's television. Judy was very popular for playing Princess Summer Fall Winter Spring on the famous children's show Howdy Doody. Her beauty was classic, but she possessed modern energy and a respectable theater background. She had shined on Broadway in the musical Pipe Dream, proving she was a complete artist and not just a pretty face. The choice of Judy for the role of Peggy Van Alden was strategic. Peggy was not just a love interest for Vince Everett, she was the catalyst for his career, the manager who gets him out of prison and transforms him into a star. The role required intelligence, determination, and an undeniable chemistry with Elvis. When Judy Tyler arrived on set, she immediately impressed everyone. She was only 24 years old and had a contagious enthusiasm. The filming, which began in May 1957, was marked by an atmosphere of hard work, but also a lot of fun. The chemistry between Elvis and Judy was palpable. Although the press at the time was always eager for an on-set romance, close friends of Elvis, like George Klein and Red West, confirmed that the relationship between the two was strictly platonic and one of deep friendship. Elvis had great respect for Judy, admiring her professional talent and her work ethic. She was not intimidated by the king's magnetism, and this peer-to-peer attitude strengthened the on-screen dynamic. One of the highlights of the collaboration was the famous prison dance scene, which would later be considered the first modern music video in history. This complex sequence required exhaustive rehearsals. Judy was always present, supporting and working alongside Elvis, ensuring that the choreography and timing were perfect. The smile and energy they exchanged on set shone through on screen, making the Vince and Peggy partnership so credible and electrifying. Judy brought a dimension of sophistication and determination to her role. The character Peggy stood out as one of the strongest female figures in Elvis's early films, a woman who was not just a damsel in distress, but a driving force in show business. Her iconic line, "I like the way you swing a guitar," demonstrated the self-confidence and attitude she injected into the character. Filming for Jailhouse Rock ended in June 1957, and the general feeling was that the film would be a huge success. There was an atmosphere of satisfaction and promise in the air. Judy said goodbye to Elvis and the crew with plans to attend the premiere in Memphis. She was looking forward to the next phase of her career in Hollywood. Coincidentally, Judy's personal life was also in a moment of celebration. She had recently married the young actor Gregory Lafayette, only 19 years old, and the newlyweds were ready to start their new life together. After filming wrapped, they hit the road, beginning a road trip that would take them east, back to New York. Judy Tyler left the set with the promise of a bright future in cinema and a happy life alongside her love. Little did they know that that goodbye on the set of Jailhouse Rock would be the last time many, including Elvis, would see her. The horizon seemed full of light, but fate had other plans, drastically dark ones. The star who had just been born in Elvis's universe was about to be extinguished. Do you think the chemistry between Elvis and Judy was the most authentic in his early films? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. The glitter of Hollywood and the energy of the Jailhouse Rock film set were left behind, replaced by the quiet of the road and the promise of a new life. Judy Tyler, the charismatic Peggy Van Alden, and her young husband, Gregory Lafayette, embarked on their trip back to the East Coast, barely knowing the cruel fate that awaited them. The horizon seemed full of light, but fate had other plans, drastically dark ones. The star who had just been born in Elvis's universe was about to be extinguished. Do you think the chemistry between Elvis and Judy was the most authentic in his early films? Leave your honest opinion in the comments. The glitter of Hollywood and the energy of the Jailhouse Rock film set were left behind, replaced by the quiet of the road and the promise of a new life. Judy Tyler, the charismatic Peggy Van Alden, and her young husband, Gregory Lafayette, embarked on their trip back to the East Coast, barely knowing the cruel fate that awaited them. Just 3 weeks after saying goodbye to Elvis Presley and the production team, tragedy struck. The date that would be marked forever in the memory of Elvis and everyone involved in the film was July 3, 1957. While driving on Route 30 near Rock River, Wyoming, the young couple's car was involved in a fatal accident. Police reports at the time detail a head-on collision. They were traveling when the car they were in collided violently with another vehicle. The impact was devastating. Judy Tyler, only 24 years old, and Gregory, 19, died at the scene of the accident. A life, an ascending career, and a recently started marriage were abruptly interrupted. News of her death shocked the small community of Rock River and quickly echoed through Hollywood studios. When the news reached Memphis, the impact was felt strongly at Graceland. Elvis Presley, who was at the height of his success and still processing the intense experience of filming Jailhouse Rock, was hit by a profound state of shock and disbelief. He was a 22-year-old man, and the premature death of such a close coworker and friend, so sudden and brutal, was a devastating emotional blow. Elvis's longtime friend, George Klein, who was close to him at the time, reported the King's reaction. Klein described Elvis as someone who was completely crushed. Judy's death was, according to him, one of the most painful losses Elvis had suffered up to that point in his life. The pain was visible and deep. Elvis spent the night after receiving the news in a state of deep melancholy. He and Klein drove around Memphis aimlessly while Elvis repeated memories of the last night he spent with Judy on the film set. He recalled details, such as the clothes she was wearing, and expressed how much she was loved by his entire team. It wasn't just the loss of a co-star, but the loss of a friend with whom he had shared an intense and creative moment in his life. Elvis's devastation was so great that initially he wanted to go to Judy's funeral. However, Colonel Tom Parker intervened. Parker and Elvis's management team were extremely concerned about the media frenzy and fan hysteria. They feared that Elvis's presence at the funeral could transform a sacred moment of mourning into a chaotic media event, which would be a dishonor and disrespect to the Tyler family. With great regret and under the strong influence of his advisors, Elvis eventually accepted the decision. He did not attend the funeral ceremony. Instead, he paid his respects more discreetly, sending a large flower arrangement and a sincere telegram of condolences. The King's mourning was, therefore, a private and isolated process, guarded within the walls of Graceland. This tragic event cemented a dark element in the story of Jailhouse Rock. Judy Tyler holds the sad distinction of being the only main co-star of Elvis to pass away before the release of her film. The film, which should have been the coronation of his ascent to cinematic stardom, was, for Elvis, a haunted memorial. The pain of loss and trauma were so deep that they became the basis for one of the most enduring legends about the king, the refusal to watch Jailhouse Rock. The simple idea of seeing Judy on screen, reliving the character Peggy Van Alden, alive, smiling, and full of plans for the future, was unbearable for him. The film's success would always be overshadowed by the personal tragedy that accompanied it, marking Elvis's conscience with the fragility and cruelty of fate. Real life had imposed a pain that not even the King of Rock, at the height of his fame, could avoid. Do you think Elvis's decision not to go to the funeral was the right thing to do, aiming for respect for the family, or should he have gone, despite the media chaos? We want to know what the fan club thinks. The tragedy that struck Judy Tyler and her husband, Gregory Lafayette, 3 weeks after the wrap of Jailhouse Rock cast a permanent shadow over the work and especially over Elvis Presley's experience with the film. The irony was cruel. The film was about to become a turning point in Elvis's film career, but for the king himself, it turned into a painful memory. The most lasting impact of Judy Tyler's death lies in the legendary fact that Elvis Presley vehemently refused to watch Jailhouse Rock after its release. For most artists, seeing their masterpiece shown to the world is a moment of triumph and celebration. For Elvis, however, watching the film meant confronting the image of his friend and co-star Peggy Van Alden alive and vibrant on screen, knowing that she was no longer among them. The pain was too intense. The film, released in November of 1957, became a resounding box office and critical success, solidifying Elvis's rebellious and sexy image and introducing the world to the iconic prison dance sequence. However, its main star, the man everyone wanted to see, avoided the screening. Elvis did not attend the premiere in Memphis and, on various occasions, expressed his difficulty in even thinking about seeing the full film. The cursed film, as some saw it, hung over Elvis's career as an unexpected memorial. It represented the moment when the glory of stardom brutally collided with the fragility of life. For a young artist, Judy Tyler's death served as a vivid reminder of the ephemerality of existence, a shocking contrast to the immortality that rock and roll seemed to promise. Elvis's refusal to watch the film was not an act of disinterest, but a defense mechanism against trauma. He couldn't stand the idea of seeing Peggy smile, fight for Vince, and in the end win him over, knowing that that light had been extinguished so quickly in real life. The final scene, which should have been a moment of cinematic triumph, became, for Elvis, a ghost. Judy Tyler's performance, in its brevity, left an undeniable legacy. She brought Peggy Van Alden to life with an intelligence and a charm that transcended the role of mere support. Elvis fans and film critics frequently cite Peggy as one of the best female characters in his early films due to the depth and strength that Judy injected into the music manager. She was not submissive. She was the driving force behind the protagonist, the only one capable of taming and, at the same time, promoting the wild side of Vince Everett. Jailhouse Rock, with its tragic behind-the-scenes story, is a film that is forever linked to the memory of Judy Tyler. Her image, eternally young and talented, is frozen in time on the screen. For the Elvis fan community, she is more than just a co-star. She is a symbol of unfulfilled potential and a figure who provoked deep and silent human pain in the king's heart. Over the years, as the film became a classic, the legend of the tragedy blended with the mythology of Elvis. Whenever the audience watches the electrifying performance of Jailhouse Rock, they are faced with the memory of the young actress who left too soon. Judy Tyler's legacy is that of a star who shone intensely, but for a short time. Her contribution to cinema is inseparable from the impact she had on Elvis's personal life. The pain he felt and the film he couldn't watch are silent testimonies to the deep affection and respect he held for her. The film lives forever, but the price of that immortality was the pain of a loss that the king could never fully overcome. She remains, for all intents and purposes, the eternal Peggy, a star whose light was extinguished by fatality, but whose brilliance on screen continues to move generations. And so we come to the end of this journey, diving into the story that lies behind the curtain of one of our king's greatest films. The tragedy of Judy Tyler reminds us that, even for the Graceland legend, the pain and grief were real and profound. The film he couldn't watch is our tribute, the way we ensure that the memory of our eternal Peggy Van Alden and the human side of Elvis Presley will never be forgotten. If this story touched your fan's heart and made you see the king in a new light, it's time for you to join our community. Don't let the rock die. Click the subscribe button down here so you don't miss any legend, curiosity, or rare fact about our idol. Activate the notification bell to be the first to know when a new video full of history and passion for Elvis goes live. Leave your like if you believe that Judy Tyler deserves to be remembered, and if the king's pain also moved you. And most importantly, what was the most shocking moment you discovered today? What is your favorite scene of Peggy in Jailhouse Rock? Leave your comment and let's continue this conversation between fans. Share this video with that friend, neighbor, or relative who also has Elvis tattooed on their soul. Let's spread the history and passion for the greatest artist who ever lived. Thank you for watching. Long live the king, and may the light of Peggy Van Alden shine forever.